Welcome to Healthy Vegan Living. My name is Gary, and what we're doing is another succotash stew, but different, of course, a different twist to it. We're going to add more different type of canned vegetables, of course, corn and Brussels sprouts. It's going to have the traditional beans, and it's going to have maybe some red beets, and because I don't have a problem with salt. So any of these ingredients, when you're making your succotash stew that causes you problems, make sure you rinse your vegetables or use sauces that have low sodium or no salt added. Okay, so let's get started. Welcome to Healthy Vegan Living, a whole food, plant-based lifestyle. Alright, so what I did different in this stew compared to the last succotash stew that I made is that in this one, I'm pre-cooking the onions. This is going to be a totally 100% starch solution meal. Well, except maybe it's going to have a little wine in it. But this is vegan wine. If you do that, I've learned that you have to use onions. You have to cook the onions as much as possible before they go in your stew, because once they go in your stew, they just don't cook as well. They have to be cooked prior. Another thing we're doing that's really different, we're cooking the Brussels sprouts right now. We're making sure that they're cooked before, so when they get in the stew, they are cooked. I'm also cooking potatoes. You're going to see a close-up of all this in a few minutes. On the other side, I have 3 open cans of diced tomatoes, 3 cans of corn, 2 cans of black beans, 1 can of yam, which I've rinsed several times to get rid of that sugary taste to it, 2 cans of beets, which I've rinsed to take away all the juice out. We're putting in, and as you already know, we are already cooking the onion. But we are doing something unusual. I love a really hot Cobb salad. And this is basically spices, so powerful that it takes over the entire salad. And I'm putting this time, this little package, which is probably not even a tablespoon, to use in the stew. It's gonna give it a little bit more flavor. All right. Alright, so from here we're going back to the stove for close-ups. Here's the Brussels sprouts. And I cooked them on high for about 10 minutes solid, and you can see they're steaming. Over here the onions, and they have to be translucent. Right behind that is the potatoes. I'm going to need a hot pad for that. And underneath me is Joy. There's the potatoes. I cooked them with the skin. In here so far, nothing. The onions will be going in there after they're cooked. So I can tell you, I'm going to lower down the potatoes right now to low. I have the Brussels sprouts. We're going to test those right now. I purchased my Brussels sprouts from Sam's Club, but I know Costco sells them and just about every grocery store has them. I like them at Sprouts because they're always small. They're not the really giant ones. These are ready. How do you tell? If your fork goes in as easily as this is, it is. So we're going to take the heat off. Turn it entirely off. We're going to go back to our onion. And there, I'm just going to move it around. Try to get it as translucent as possible. Yes, I'm burning the pan. I'm not really that worried about it. I put some more wine in. So this wine is a French Cabernet Franc, no added sulfites, in 2021. Product of France. All right. This obviously would be an adult dish. If you're under the age of 21 and you're making this recipe, don't use the wine, don't really need it. But you could, for example, use apple juice, grape juice, if you want something a little unusual. The problem with grape juice is it's got too much sugar, and so does apple juice. This just gives it a little bit different. It's getting there. It's just going to take some time. Let's test the potatoes next. Potatoes are back over here. We're going to pick that up. And potatoes take longer. Okay, these are not ready. They're hard. So we're going to leave that alone. And we're just going to concentrate on our onions. And then what we'll do is, as soon as the onions are ready, we'll transfer them to the big pot. Normally I use a Teflon pan, but since we move and they've stolen all of our dishes and half our pots, the only reason we got the pots that you see on the stove is because I packed those because I wanted them safe. I thought that the rest would be safe, but they were not safe. Anyway, moving is like 2020. It's like a hit and miss. Unless you do it yourself, you pack yourself, these things happen. It's not that much of a worry. All right, we're going to let that go for a little while. And meanwhile, what we'll do, we'll start on this burner over here, and I'm going to show you, I'm going to get it started. Take the lid off. We have another burner over here. Okay, now it's on. We're going to put it on low. And we're going to put in our 3 cans of, in this case, diced tomatoes. Last time we used tomato sauce. This time we're using crushed tomatoes. And right behind it, we're going to use our corn. So we have 3 cans of corn. And right after that, we're using our beans, our Bush Best Black beans. They haven't been drained. Okay, I can mix the onions a little bit more. And normally what I do is I put this on the bottom of the, like say if I'm doing an instant pot meal, I'll take care of that first. All right, we're going to cook these a little more. Put some more of that French wine in there. Okay, then right after that we're going to put in our beets. And the last real ingredient, this was yams, cut sweet tomatoes in syrup. The syrup was removed, just the yams. Then you get a big spoon. Remember where you put the other one. And you mix it all up. I'll just test the onions real quick. You can see them a little bit. And you mix this up again. This has all been cooked over here in the middle of the stove. So all you're doing is warming it up so that you get all the juices together. You can see it's going to be another gigantic pot And it's going to be perfect for these incredibly hot days that we've been having here in Southern California. And if you take a look at the news, it's just about everywhere on the Western hemisphere of the United States and probably throughout the world. Okay. It may be that we may have to start getting used to these weird, strange temperatures and just don't ever recall having that. Okay, so now you take with the wine and everything, and you pour it in. And you turn off the burner, and then you mix your wine sauteed onions in your mix of already cooked vegetables, which are flying everywhere, but where they're supposed to be. While that happens, the next thing I'm going to do is move over and drain the Brussels sprouts. Take your cooked Brussels sprouts, pour it inside. You have a giant pot of deliciousness. And then what you're going to be doing is moving this to the sink for soaking. That's going to be a mess to pick up. Then you're going to transfer this carefully to the front. It's easier to film. Okay, you grab it. And you leave it heat on. And then turn off all your burners. So this one's off, the back one's on. So the only two burners that should be on are the front here and where the potatoes are. We're just going to mix this all in now. Then just like last time, you're going to let it cool. And then you're going to put it away in your plastic bags. And it's going to make another entire delicious meal, because all this I can eat cold throughout this really hot weather. And it's going to be just totally delicious. And I don't have to add any herbs to it, because most of the time, if I want some seasoning, I add it when I eat it. I've already found out I didn't have to do that last time. It tasted great. Okay. So we're just going to leave that alone. Now you can't walk away from this because the bottom will burn, just like what happened with the onions. So we're going to walk over and double check, not that far. And we're going to see back here how the potatoes are doing. The potatoes are doing pretty good, but we're going to put the potatoes on high. So I want them to boil a little more, cook a little more. And you're going to put the rest. Now, we used half a bottle of this kind of wine. And you just mix it in. A totally adult, delicious meal. Now, do you need to put alcohol? No, you don't need to put alcohol. Remember, you're in the kitchen, you're the chef, you decide what goes into your meal. Not me, you're just following this recipe. You're using what's in the cupboard. Now, why is it that I use all these cans? Well, let me tell you the story. Did you know I'm a prepper? Yes, I like to make sure that if there's an earthquake or there's a storm or a fire or something of that nature, anything in it, like right now, a heat wave, that I have food on hand. And all of this food, except for the Brussels sprouts, the potatoes, and the onions, needed to be used. They were at the end of their expiration, which will mean I'll be buying more of that kind of product and storing it in the lower portion of my pantry. Okay, so looks like the potatoes are getting happily cooked. Oh yeah, they're ready. Okay, so I'm going to turn off the water on the potatoes, the heat on the potatoes, and this is still at low over here. And I'm going to go to the sink and drain this and put in the potatoes. Okay, I'm going to do that as soon as I get another mitt. Get this thing about being burnt. So the potatoes, put them aside. Now want you to notice that the size of the potatoes are the way I like to eat my potatoes. The big chunky stew. So can't use this anymore, gotta use a spoon. That's just the way I like to eat. I like to eat, oh look, I forgot one potato. But the thing is that I like my stews to be chunky. I guess I'm a chunky kind of guy. All right, so we're gonna let this cook for about 15 minutes and coming back and taking care of the bottom so nothing burns on the bottom. And then we're gonna let it cool just like we did last time. And then it's gonna go in our plastic bags. And then for another week, I'm going to have delicious food to eat. Now you do not have to put this in plastic bags. And today I'm gonna show you a different way of storing it than putting it in quart-sized bags. Oops, I hit the camera. Okay, so now the potatoes are mostly buried. Now what we're gonna do is we're gonna put the lid on top. And I'm gonna talk to you some more. So there's two things we didn't add. I still haven't added my special spices, which I'm doing right now. So you start off, you're making your Succotash stew with the stuff that you have available in your home. You of course want to keep somewhat similar to what the original recipe is, but you know, you're the master of your kitchen. Nobody can tell you that you can't have, for example, onions or wine or, like I did, yams or potatoes. You're in charge. This is just a way for you to see that there's possibilities out there. Now, I already told you I'm a prepper. All of these cans expired this month. This is July 2023, and they needed to be used. And that's how it is. I have stuff on hand all the time in case I want to come up with some creative way to be able to use my vegetables in my recipes. But sometimes you have to be creative. Okay, now we're going to stir this one more time. And we're going to mix in the very, very hot chili powder I put in. I hope I can get all of it down. This stuff is so hot, it's like cayenne pepper. Okay. While this happens, this is the time when you pick up your kitchen, because you don't want to leave that for your wives if you're cooking, or your husbands, or your children. It's not that hard. You put the cans in the recycling, that's how it is in California. And some places you have to separate the paper from the cans or whatever. Every place has got a different rule. Okay, so we're going to see you in a little bit, clean up the kitchen, come back, and start showing you how we're going to store this. So you have the wine from France, Del Monte whole kernel corn, Hunt's diced tomatoes, Stater Brothers, our local grocery store, whole beets, Bush black beans, and this yam. It was in sugar sauce, but I took care of that. I'm going to grab it and put it on these oven mitts. And it's heavy, just like last time. And we'll put it, turn off the stove. I made a nice mess of it. Now, you can't serve it in here in a plastic bag because they'll melt the bag. You don't want that in your food. If you use glass containers, you can do that. You can put them in a glass container, put them maybe like in the refrigerator, and they'll cool it down. What I do is I usually use, this is a plastic bowl, it won't work. But I use glass bowls or metal bowls to cool it down a little bit, so by the time I get down to putting it in my plastic bag, it's all ready to go. Now, why such a big bag? It's not that the quart-sized bag don't work, that's like a single serving. But lately I've been eating a lot of this stuff. a lot more than I realized. I found out that just maybe what I should be doing is using a larger bag, and that's what we're going to be doing next. All right, so from here what we're going to be doing is taking our stew, that's red because of the beets, and we're going to be putting it in our containers. And of course the red wine from France. None of that is going to hurt you. When I used to own the other house up in Aruba Valley, a lot of the produce that I'm putting in here I used to grow myself. Now I either use canned, as you saw me do, or I buy fresh from the farmer's market. It's a lot heavier. See if I can just pour this into this bowl without getting burnt. It's always the operating thing. Or wearing most of it. Okay, the rest is mine. All right, so we're gonna let that cool 10-15 minutes. Then we're gonna put it in these giant bags. And I always mark my plastic bags. It says on here, Succotash. And that way you have a basic idea what's going on. All right, we'll see you in a few minutes. Okay, so if you see the pots in front of me, you've noticed there's a little bit of a white linen on top of it. That's not to keep the heat in, that's to keep the flies out. Because this is July, you need to know I stay right on top of my kitchen. They sneak in, they are sneaky flies, and they come in. All right, so now what I'm doing next is I'm just gonna clean up the kitchen, take a little break, come back and package this. All right, I'd love for you to see my face, but what I want to do is I want you to understand what we're doing. We take these covers off to protect them against the flies, and then you take a container, whichever one it is, just this one's a little easier to pull. You take your gallon container, and I like to use these plastic cutting boards because I usually make a mess. Okay, it's just the way it is. You can't expect this stuff not to be messy. All right, and you pour it in. Okay, I see I'm having trouble. So what I've learned, that if you take a bowl, this happens to be plastic, but we're not going to be using that, it holds the shape better. And that's the end of that one. And then you grab the next easiest bowl for you to fill. Now, some of these bowls are really heavy, and you're going to fill this bag about halfway. I'm going to show you why. Mix it in. Okay. So pull it out of here. This could go a little bit more. And what you're going to do then, like this, you seal it almost to the top, but not all the way to get the air bubble out. Don't need that air in there. Push it forward. The air is coming out of this little hole where my finger is at, right here. Just push it in like this. So then, if you wanted to, you can fold it over like this. So you still got too much air in there. But you could fold it over, and this will easily make 2 or 3 good meals. All right, so we're just gonna lay it out here. Where's my other, there it is. And I made enough this time so that I didn't run out, like I did last time. And I'm the type of person that loves big textures like the tomatoes, the beets, the Brussels sprouts. I didn't cut them or dice them this time, I kept them whole. Okay, so you see that onion's getting away? And the reason you're using the bowl is because you know you're gonna drop some. Okay. Then you go to the next bowl, and you could easily make 3 giant containers of deliciousness. Now, there are many succotash recipes on the internet. This is just mine. This is the way I've always done succotash. Passed down by thousands and thousands of years of being a vegan. No, I've only been vegan since 2017. But this is basically a vegetable salad. Okay, there's not enough in that one. So you don't worry about it. And this is great for summer parties, you know, and you know it's got all, that's really heavy. It's got all that deliciousness, easy to put together, a little bit of planning. Okay. And if you're curious, you just put it like that. You can kind of gauge it. And this will be fine on this one. Now, I always wash the bags and dry them off before I put it in the freezer. And the reason why I do that is they stick together otherwise. But that still doesn't mean that it can't be worked out. And this should easily fill this bag. It doesn't run away from me. So, let me tell you about what I'm going to be doing this week. This week is Linda's birthday. I made this ahead of time so that on the 22nd, when her birthday is actually happening, we would have a little bit of a stew. I could be able to eat healthy and she could eat unhealthy if she wanted to. Okay, we're going to save the rest for this for tonight's dinner. Okay, pretty much. Maybe we'll put a little more. No, we're not. We'll put one more. So you've got 3 gigantic bags. And you pull it out from the meal that you just made. Now, of course, you've got more to pick up. Your counter is going to be messy. There's a lot of, all those bowls have to be cleaned. But considering that you have these giant gallon-sized containers, they're going to be put in your freezer or your refrigerator, or depending on how fast you want to eat them. Going to be a quick, simple meal on these incredibly hot days that you have a meal already for you. And when it's boiled on the stove, most of the alcohol is probably gone by now. So there's not going to be that much, and always only half a bottle of French wine. All right? So the next thing we're going to be doing now is cleaning up the kitchen and putting it all away. All right, see you soon. So there's where I've stored all 3 bags, and there's a couple from last week. And as you can see, this is my dinner tonight after yoga. And the kitchen is now cleaned. Okay.